Roman Reigns has been called the tribal chief, the head of the table, the man who carried WWE on his back for nearly 4 years, but all of that dominance came to a crashing halt on Monday Night Raw. The aura of invincibility, the look of control, the smug arrogance that Roman walked into every arena with, it was ripped apart, shattered, and left lying in pieces on the mat after the most vicious two-man ambush we've seen in a long, long time. And here's the thing that will make a lot of fans furious. Roman Reigns didn't just get beaten. He didn't just get attacked. Roman Reigns got broken. His ribs were crushed after back-to-back punishment from Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. You could literally see Roman gasping for air, clutching his sides like a man who realized, maybe for the very first time, that he was human, that he could bleed, that he could break, that he could lose it all in one single night. This wasn't just a random beatdown. No. This was a message. A statement. A declaration that the new monsters of WWE, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, are not here to be supporting acts. They're here to erase the so-called tribal chief, to tear down his empire piece by piece, and to humiliate him in front of the same audience that once worshipped him. Let's break down exactly how it all went down, because this wasn't an accident, this wasn't a fluke, and it damn sure wasn't a coincidence. This was planned warfare, and the execution was flawless. Roman was in the middle of Raw, basking in the crowd's reaction, half boos, half cheers, but all eyes locked on him. That's when Braun Breaker made his move. The second-generation powerhouse, who has been carving out a reputation as the most dangerous young athlete in WWE, stormed the ring with a look of pure rage in his eyes. The man didn't hesitate. He didn't circle. He didn't taunt. He charged. And in the blink of an eye, Roman's chest and ribs were nearly folded in half from the impact of Breaker's brutal spear. You could hear the crack. You could see Roman's body whiplash like a car wreck victim. And just when you thought it was over, Braun Breaker wasn't done. He hit another spear. Then another. He was like a shark smelling blood in the water, and Roman was drowning. But then came the finishing blow. The part that made fans scream online. The part that may have changed Roman Reigns' career forever. Bronson Reed, the 330-pound juggernaut, climbed the ropes with Roman motionless in the middle of the ring. And then, boom. The tsunami. A crushing splash that came down with the force of a falling building right across Roman's ribcage. The air left Roman's body instantly. His face contorted in pain, his mouth gasped wide open like he couldn't breathe, and the crowd fell into stunned silence. The so-called tribal chief, the so-called head of the table, was reduced to a broken man struggling to hold himself together. And here's the part that will piss a lot of you off. WWE's medical staff had to rush to the ring, not to sell a storyline, but because Roman Reigns legitimately suffered a rib injury. This wasn't fake. This wasn't smoke and mirrors. Roman got wrecked, and the fallout could be career-altering. Now let's talk about why this happened. Why Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed of all people? Why now? Why Roman? Because Roman has been the face of WWE's monopoly of power. He's walked around like a mafia boss, like the entire company revolves around him, and for years nobody could touch him. But Braun Breaker is not afraid of him. Bronson Reed is not afraid of him. And together, they saw an opportunity to strike, and they took it without hesitation. This wasn't just a physical beatdown. This was the symbolic killing of a king. The symbolic killing of a king. That's exactly what this was. Because for years, Roman Reigns has stood tall, untouched, untouchable, and untamed. WWE made him the chosen one, the unstoppable force, the face of the company. Every challenger, whether it was Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, Brock Lesnar, even legends like John Cena, they all fell. And every single time, Roman walked out the same way he walked in, smug, arrogant, and invincible. But on Raw, that illusion cracked. No, it shattered. Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed did what nobody else could. They didn't just beat Roman. They destroyed him. They stripped away the aura. And for the first time in almost 4 years, fans looked at Roman Reigns and didn't see a tribal chief. They didn't see a god. They saw a broken man. And you could feel the shift immediately. Social media exploded. Clips of Braun Breaker's spears went viral within minutes, fans screaming about how insane it was to see Roman folded in half. Others replayed the tsunami from Bronson Reed on loop, calling it the most devastating move they've seen land on Roman in his entire career. Hashtags started trending. Hashtag Roman broken. Hashtag Braun Breaker era. Hashtag tsunami on the tribal chief. But here's what's even crazier. Fans weren't all on the same side. Some people were celebrating. They were cheering. They were saying, finally, Roman Reigns has been humbled. Finally, the reign of terror is cracking. But then there were the die-hard Roman loyalists, furious, screaming that WWE disrespected their tribal chief, that he didn't deserve to be left like roadkill on live television. And that division, that anger, that's exactly what WWE wanted. They wanted chaos. And they got it. Now, let's look closer at Bron Breakker's role here, because make no mistake, this wasn't Bronson Reed's master plan. This was Breakker's attack. This was Breakker's moment. He was the one who speared Roman not once, not twice, but 3 straight times with such brutality that you could see Roman's ribs bending like rubber. And Breakker didn't care. He didn't hesitate. He didn't even look at the crowd. He looked straight through Roman, like a predator finally tearing apart the alpha of the pack. Think about what this means. Bron Breakker isn't just another young talent. He's not another future star. After Monday night, he proved he's the star. The man WWE is grooming not just to be the next guy, but the guy to take out Roman Reigns and lead this company into a new era. And Bronson Reed, he played the perfect executioner. The tsunami wasn't just an exclamation point. It was a career-shortening statement. Roman clutched his ribs, his face twisted in agony, the medical team surrounding him like it was a crime scene. That wasn't just a beatdown, it was a mugging. And don't think for one second that Paul Heyman didn't feel the weight of that moment. Did you see his face at ringside? The man who's always smiling, always bragging about his tribal chief's dominance, looked like he had seen a ghost. His entire empire just collapsed in front of him, and for once, he had no words, no tricks, no way to spin it. He just looked defeated. This isn't just about Roman's ribs. This is about Roman's entire identity. His legacy. His aura. Because once the mystique of invincibility is gone, you don't get it back. Fans will never look at him the same again. And here's the part that's going to anger the Bloodline loyalists even more. Where was Jimmy Uso? Where was Solo Sikoa? Where was anyone to protect Roman Reigns? The man who demanded loyalty, the man who forced others to bend the knee, was left alone to be slaughtered. Nobody came. Nobody saved him. He was abandoned. And that right there is the real story. Not just that Roman Reigns suffered a brutal rib injury, but that Roman Reigns, the so-called tribal chief, was left to die in his own kingdom, his empire crumbling as the wolves circled in. The aftermath of this attack is what really exposes the cracks in Roman's empire. Because let's be honest, if this was the Roman Reigns of 2021, 2022, even early 2023, the Bloodline would have swarmed the ring before Breakker's first spear even connected. But this wasn't that Roman. This wasn't that Bloodline. This was Roman Reigns abandoned, left to fend for himself, and it shows exactly how fragile his kingdom has become. And that's the piece that should terrify Roman's fans the most. Because yes, the rib injury is bad. Yes, it might sideline him for weeks. Yes, it might weaken him going into future matches. But what's worse than the physical pain? The psychological reality that Roman is no longer untouchable. He's vulnerable, and the vultures in WWE can smell the weakness. Imagine being Roman Reigns right now. You're lying in a hospital bed, taped up, struggling to breathe with every movement. And all you can think about is the fact that Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed made you look mortal. For years, your opponents feared you. Now, they know you can be broken. They know you can be beaten. And once that fear is gone, the entire empire crumbles. And here's what's going to make people really mad. This wasn't just an attack, it was a shift in power. Bron Breakker didn't just target Roman randomly. No, this was a calculated move to make a name for himself, to declare war on the old guard, and to tell the world, I'm not waiting my turn. I'm taking it now. And when you pair that aggression with Bronson Reed's size and brutality, Roman never stood a chance. Fans online are already buzzing with questions. Is this the beginning of the end for Roman? Is WWE preparing to pass the torch to Breakker? Could Roman's rib injury force him to vacate his spot at the head of the table? These aren't just wild theories, they're legitimate possibilities. And let's not forget the politics behind the scenes. Roman Reigns has been the golden goose for WWE, the moneymaker, the guy they built everything around. But there's only so long you can rely on one man before the audience starts to demand something new, something fresh, something dangerous. Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed just proved they can be that something. They didn't need pyro. They didn't need promos. They didn't need months of hype. They just needed one night, one brutal assault, to shift the balance of power. But here's the part that will leave people speechless. WWE's commentary team didn't downplay it. They didn't brush it off as just another attack. They outright said it. Roman Reigns might be seriously injured. They pushed the narrative that this wasn't just a storyline beatdown. This was real. And when WWE leans that hard into the realism, you know they're planting seeds for something massive. So what happens next? That's the million-dollar question. Does Roman come back with vengeance, demanding blood from Breakker and Reed? Does he try to rebuild the bloodline and remind the world that he's still the tribal chief? Or does this rib injury mark the slow, painful downfall of Roman Reigns, the crumbling of an empire, and the rise of a new king? Because let's face it, Roman's character is built on dominance. on control, on invincibility. And the second you strip that away, what's left? A man with broken ribs, no allies, and a target on his back. And you can bet every single star in WWE, from Seth Rollins to Cody Rhodes, from Gunther to even veterans like Randy Orton, watched that attack and thought the exact same thing. Roman Reigns isn't untouchable anymore. That's the real fallout. The fear is gone. The mystique is shattered. The Bloodline Empire is cracking. And Braun Breaker just announced himself as the man who might finally bury Roman Reigns for good. The backlash after this attack is unlike anything WWE has seen in years. Fans are divided right down the middle, and the internet has turned into a full-blown battlefield. On one side, you've got the people screaming, finally. Roman got what was coming to him. The empire is crumbling, and the new blood is taking over. On the other, you've got die-hard Roman loyalists furious that WWE would allow their tribal chief to be humiliated like this, calling it the most disrespectful booking decision since Brock Lesnar squashed John Cena at SummerSlam 2014. And let's be honest, both sides have a point. Because for years, WWE has carefully protected Roman. He's been the golden boy, the man they built around, the one person you knew would never get embarrassed on TV. But Monday Night flipped that entire script upside down. For the first time in forever, Roman Reigns looked powerless, helpless, mortal, and that's why fans can't stop talking about it. This wasn't some mid-carder getting jumped. This was the guy, the head of the table, the tribal chief, the man who bragged about running WWE like it was his personal mafia empire. And now, he's lying in a hospital bed with his ribs taped up while the Wolves celebrate on social media. But here's where the anger really boils: the timing. Because Roman's rib injury doesn't just affect him. It affects the entire WWE main event scene. If Roman is sidelined for weeks or even months, what happens to every storyline WWE had planned around him? What happens to the Bloodline saga? What happens to the next WrestleMania? Fans are already speculating like crazy. Some believe this is WWE's way of writing Roman off TV temporarily, maybe to rest his body after years of carrying the company. Others think this is a calculated move to finally shift the spotlight to Braun Breaker and force the audience to accept him as the new monster heel. And then there are the people screaming conspiracy, convinced WWE is trying to bury Roman so someone like Cody Rhodes or Seth Rollins can slide into the top spot. But whatever the truth is, the fact remains: the entire landscape of WWE just changed in one night. Think about the ripple effects. Without Roman, the Bloodline angle loses its centerpiece. Without Roman, the SmackDown brand suddenly feels wide open, like anyone could step in and claim the throne. Without Roman, WWE's biggest attraction, the aura of dominance he carried, vanishes. And that leaves a dangerous vacuum. Because if WWE doesn't handle this right, the entire company could descend into chaos. Who leads the main event picture? Who sells the big matches? Who becomes the guy to draw the heat, the cheers, the attention? That's why this moment feels so monumental. Because it's not just about Roman's ribs, it's about the foundation of WWE's storytelling. And Braun Breaker knows it. You could see it in his eyes after the attack. That wasn't a rookie making a statement. That was a man declaring war. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew the ripple effect. And Bronson Reed, he might have just secured his spot as the most dangerous sidekick in the company. But here's the kicker: this isn't just about what happened. It's about what's coming. Because now that Roman's aura is gone, every single superstar in WWE has a green light to come after him. Cody, Rollins, Gunther, Orton, even The Rock, if WWE decides to play that card. Roman Reigns is no longer untouchable. He's prey. And prey doesn't last long in this business.